It's time to check your money with America's Money Maven, Vicki Brackens. Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. Vicki, we got a special guest in the building.
Yes, we do. We have a special returning guest in the building. And I always like to acknowledge the fact that when someone makes a commitment to us and lives up to it, we say thank you. Because Mr. Robinson told us that he would be happy to come back in about, say, 60 to 90 days to give us more of an update on the things that were happening here on a local basis as far as economic development and how our audience could get involved with and take advantage of those economic and development areas here in Central New York. So, Dominic, again, welcome, Mr. Dominic Robinson, Senior Vice President of Inclusive Growth for Centerstate Corporation for Economic Opportunity, better known as Centerstate CEO. So what has happened over the last 90 days that we really need to dig into to be sure that everyone is on point?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me back. I will come back anytime you want me, and I am truly sincere when I say that I always love talking to both of you. And you know, the stuff that you want to talk about is stuff that I love talking about, and it's very important for our community. So, thanks for having me. The thing that is consuming my world right now, there are really two big projects that we are running to ground here at Centerstate CEO. And one is one that has been near and dear to your heart, and something that you've been connected to, Vicki, which is the expansion of what has been known as our tech garden, which is for those of you who are not familiar, it is a building that we run, owned by the city, technically, that we operate business incubation and acceleration programs out of. And we, for a long time, have been working to grow our innovation economy and have seen that incubator as the epicenter of a lot of our new business growth. And this $30 million expansion is an opportunity for us to take that growth and that activity and that dynamism to a new level, but also perhaps more importantly, to make it more expansive and inclusive of the broader Syracuse community and the Central New York community. The other big thing we're working on is similar in nature, but less focused on entrepreneurship and more on workforce. And that is part of the governor's announcement for what she has referred to as the On-Ramp Initiative. On-Ramp is an acronym, like all good state programs, which stands for...
Oh, we need an acronym. We got to have that.
Yeah. New York State's got the acronyms on lock, but it is one network for regional advanced manufacturing partnerships. And really what it comes down to is creating an epicenter in the heart of our city of Syracuse for community residents who historically have not been connected to the manufacturing sector and other high growth technology sectors related to manufacturing, and in our case also construction, to create a massive investment that will not only create a place where people can come and receive training and programming to get them on the ladder for opportunity, but really to showcase the growth that is coming to our community and make sure that people feel like they're part of it. So those are two things that right now consume the better part of my days. And I think it's like one of those things where I go back to 15 years ago, and I was working as a grassroots kind of community advocate, program designer, organizer on Syracuse's north side. And if you told me then that we would be driving, some massively disruptive and potentially very impactful projects at this level, I would have been pretty blown away. And so it's amazing to see that a lot of those early ideas come to fruition at a scale and a level of impact that we could have only dreamed of at one point. So those are the things that are keeping me up at night and getting me up in the morning with a little bit of adrenaline pumping through my veins when I wake up. and I'm happy to go down either of those paths with you here today. But I think that they both are very important, for the audience here. And
What does the acronym stand for again?
On-ramp.
On-ramp, one network for regional advanced manufacturing partnerships. And so
Okay.
that is actually the reason it's a network, is because the state originally started talking to some of us in central New York about bringing this idea to Syracuse, but over time they really realized that the growth we're seeing in high-tech manufacturing is happening across the thruway corridor.
Mm-hmm.
And so while Syracuse has been pegged as the defined kind of flagship center as part of this initiative, there will be a handful of other opportunities for other metro areas to develop a similar hub or program in their communities as well. So eventually there'll be a network, including ourselves. Buffalo, where they already have an example of that going, that we're looking closely at. But there will be, could be Utica, could be Capital Region, could be Rochester, could be Hudson Valley. So we're kind of do not pass go, do not collect $200. Syracuse is on the move. So we're getting ready to get that really up and running.
So you said a couple of things, and I want to kind of back into them.
Yeah.
One network for advanced manufacturing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Partnerships. It's a state acronym. We love their
but here's
marketing.
the thing. Yeah. Syracuse and upstate New York and all, Buffalo, Rochester, manufacturing has been our history for years.
Yes.
In one sense. What is different now with manufacturing that we have to have such emphasis on retraining and so forth? What is advanced manufacturing?
Well, it's a great question, and I think that you're absolutely right that manufacturing, starting in the dawn of the industrial area before the turn of the 20th century, was the driver of economic and population growth across upstate New York and what was now considered the Rust Belt, was the magnet for so much of the influx of immigrants, primarily from Western Europe, as well as second and third wave migrants of Black Americans from the South to the North. And so if you think about the diversity that we celebrate as a community today, so much of who we are today as a community was defined and was catalyzed by manufacturing. And we know that something very damaging and profoundly awful happened, where in the post-World War II era, we saw a confluence of a lot of things, right? We saw urban renewal, which disrupted Black and immigrant communities disproportionately, displacing people massively. We actually saw the beginning and then the rapid acceleration of deindustrialization, where jobs that were located in urban cores left. And then actually, ironically, while many Black and minority middle-class communities were stabilized by, in some ways, segregation, because those that were upwardly mobile could not leave, upon that moment where desegregation was the law of the land, those that could left to follow the jobs. And so what we see today is the legacy of the vacuum effect, where the upwardly mobile folks in our neighborhoods left, the jobs left, and what remained went down the vicious cycle that we don't have to rehash. But the fact of the matter is that we know that when we can bring jobs back to a community, when we can bring investment back to a community, communities are fundamentally more stable. and those communities that exist in, at least in Syracuse, we can speak to, that are predominantly Black and brown and low income, there's also a pervasive rate of chronic joblessness, and not just unemployment, but people who are not even showing up in the labor market. So I think it's important to acknowledge all that history as we look ahead. And so where are we today? Well, first, manufacturing is back. So what we have seen is that through basic market trends, but also some really smart investments from the federal government and New York State. In this case, particularly in terms of what brought Micron here, the Federal CHIPS Act, the federal government, and the Green CHIPS Act out of New York State. We are seeing, with the $100 billion committed investment from Micron, but on top of that, roughly $7 to $8 billion of potential investment coming to Central New York. Beyond that, outside of anything Micron related, that is all advanced manufacturing in nature. And so a confluence of public policy, market forces, the presence of water, the access to power, a lot of things that you need to do manufacturing today, the level of growth that we're going to see in that sector is unlike anything we've seen since those early industrial eras.
Okay, but here's, I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what I'm really trying to get you to explain to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Really, just like pinpoint. Before, I was making cars.
Yeah.
Over at New Process Gear.
Yeah.
And those cars came down the assembly line.
Yeah.
And they were called manufacturing.
Yes.
But now you call it advanced manufacturing. What's the difference?
Great question. I mean, I think that there's advanced manufacturing is a broad term, but what it typically means is that there's a high level of technology involved. And so in some cases, what we are doing is we are producing those final products, like, it's not really cars as much anymore, but there are still people that are making the things that you can recognize when you look at. But in most cases, we're developing pieces that go into larger pieces of technology. The most obvious example, the easiest example, is the microchip, which is obviously what Micron is going to be producing at a scale that is pretty staggering. And those microchips go into everything from our cars, coincidentally, to defense technology, to our phones, to artificial intelligence. You look at the huge boom of artificial intelligence, and the hardware, the technology that drives a lot of the AI is actually the type of microchip that Micron makes, the DRAM memory chip. And so you look at all that, and that Micron is going to be producing those chips for that global array of uses. But that's just Micron. I mean, we're seeing folks who make little metal pieces that go into iPhones, widgets that go into satellites, contracts with the Defense Department, So at the end of the day, we are once again coming back, but we are making things that are way more sophisticated than we made 50 years ago, and that are part of a global supply chain. And so, what we make here is going to show up in products that ultimately get assembled across the world. And it just so happens that, in a couple decades, upstate New York will be one of the major drivers of a lot of that technology that is ultimately enabling the world to run in the future state.
So would you say that we have flipped our role in manufacturing? And here's what I mean. Years ago, we were the assemblers at the end.
Yep.
And all the stuff got shipped to us.
Yes.
Now we are the ones making the components and shipping out to others.
That's largely true, right? There are still some what we would call OEMs, those folks that are making the final product from the back end, but that's not the predominant thing that we're seeing. We're seeing a lot more component manufacturing. Yep.
Component manufacturing, and on a highly sophisticated technology base, which is why it's called advanced manufacturing versus just the manufacturing that we had before, which is why the retraining has to take place. Okay.
That's right. And it's not just retraining. I think that's what's really important, is that if you're talking about, communities overtly and subliminally have a memory of the wounds that came before, right? And so when you know that an industry that once was the lifeblood of our community was the lifeblood of the middle class, in many cases, the Black and immigrant middle class, and then it leaves and the bottom drops out in dramatic fashion, there's a lot of narrative behind that. And
Right.
so for us, I think that's why we are so excited about what we're doing with what will be our future. We will get to name it our own name when we bring it to Syracuse, but this on-ramp initiative, the hub or the center that we bring to our community, our commitment is we're going to bring it to the south side, most likely just south of downtown. It would be in proximity to a lot of the other really exciting investments that are happening in that area. And the idea is to not just create something that's proximate, but that like disrupts the paradigm, right? Whoa, this is in our neighborhood, and this isn't a community center. This is a highly functional, high-tech, very nice economic development project that is creating opportunities in our community. That's what we're trying to create, in a place where people want to walk in, where they feel welcome, and then they're able to understand what these opportunities are, how they fit in, and then they can navigate the journey that get them there, right? So
it's not necessarily retraining then, it's new training.
It's new
in many
training.
cases, yes, right?
Yes,
but what we
George.
know, George, is that 40% of households in our region, and a disproportion of them are living in the city and all that, but 40% of households in our region have wage earners in their household, people who are working,
Right.
who are considered underemployed, who still require government subsidies to get by. And those are folks who, in many cases, have skills that are applicable to advanced manufacturing or that are adjacent to, and who, without a whole lot of effort, we could kind of flip into this new path where there's higher wages, more stable work, and maybe where you don't have to work 2-3 jobs to make ends meet. And so a big part of our goal is to, it's kind of retraining, right? Like, how do we tap into what you're doing today and all the experiences you've accrued and convert those into something that allows you to kind of get on the fast track towards a career, and not just at Micron, right? That's kind of the impetus for a lot of this stuff. But there's a number of manufacturers that exist here today and will be here over the next decade that we're ready to get people up and running and ready to go.
And I'm so happy you said that that's not just Micron. Would you just take a moment, Dominic, and name some of the other companies that fall into this category?
Absolutely. So we've been organizing a whole consortium of training providers and colleges and community colleges around the Micron opportunity, and we've kind of said, hey, we need to start opening this up. So we have at least a dozen folks that we're engaging today, over the course of the next few weeks, to bring them into the conversation and get them actively a part of it. And that includes folks like Lockheed Martin up in Liverpool, Saab Census, Syracuse Resource Corporation, SRC Tech, Novellus, Bryomech, PPC Belden. I mean, there's a long list. Baxter out in Skinny Atlas, which used to be Welch Allen.
Mm-hmm.
They're all growing. They're all adding jobs. HII, which just relocated to downtown Syracuse, they're about to hire 30 manufacturing jobs located in downtown. So we're kind of bringing them all into the mix and getting them plugged into what we're doing, because so much of what they need is going to be very similar to what Micron needs, and so we can all rally around the same strategies and hopefully make things happen together.
Okay, well, listen, I thank you for doing that, because this word advanced manufacturing is just floating in the air, and we had not, my fault, stopped and said, what's the difference?
That's the right thing.
Where's the difference? Okay.
Well, and that's part of that's part of the mental shift that needs to happen, because not only do people think manufacturing, oh, that was bad, it left, it killed us, but also it's different. You used to walk into a manufacturing floor and you would think it's dirty, it's dangerous, whatever, those associations were noisy, right? The manufacturing jobs that we're trying to create opportunities for today are in clean environments. They're very high tech. In many cases, understanding of things like basic coding is a huge plus. It's like, there's not the same safety hazards that there were. In many cases, there aren't really any. And so what we're talking about is something very different than what many people bring with them when they think they understand what that is.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this at this point in time because I want to make sure that we fully discuss this, and we'll bring you back again, fully
Of
discuss
course.
this issue. So
Yeah.
we've got the on-ramp manufacturing
Yep.
hub that's going to be built somewhere near this in the south side of Syracuse. We're probably looking at what, a year before this gets kicked off?
Well,
Give me a timetable.
so we've just begun the planning process in earnest, and we're kind of a little bit ahead of the gate because we're technically waiting until the state to pass this budget, which realistically isn't going to come until at least next week. But assuming that all goes well, then we're really off to the races. What we're doing now, and my team and I were spending a good chunk of time today figuring this out, is making sure that there is interim programming that is leading to these jobs in manufacturing and construction, actually, in partnership with the mayor's Syracuse Spilled initiative. And so those things are going to start happening as early as this summer, right? So we're going to be, like all those employers I just mentioned, we're going to really be cranking up the effort to get them plugged in, to get people plugged into those jobs as early as this summer. And then in anticipation of, once we have a permanent building settled and we're going to create a new nonprofit to manage that building. We're going to invite in our community college partners and our other partners to do the training, the wraparound services. That's all happening, but it's all eventually going to happen in that center, in that hub. But the work and the partnerships don't have to wait. And so those are things starting now. I think realistically, we're talking 2 years before there will be a center up and running. That's unfortunately just the reality of the timing.
But okay, as far as the programming and the efforts, okay, so if I'm one of that 40% who's underemployed, but has the tangential skills, has the wraparound skills that with very little training I can move forward or get into a better position, what do I need to do right now, and where do I need to do it?
There is a couple things, right? We have a couple of partners already running programming that is really in line with everything that's coming. So one is Onondaga Community College has a electrical mechanical technician program. It's a 2-year associate's degree that Micron has said, and many other manufacturing employers have said, you graduate from that, you're good. And so that's actually something you could reach out to my team, because we're working with them to help make sure that we're bringing folks from a lot of different historically underrepresented populations into that program. So that's a strategy that we can we can bring to bear as early as probably like May or June of this year. But the next cohort of that program is starting in the fall. So you could go right to OCC and check that out, or you could reach out to Centerstate CEO, myself, and my team. And we can also, if you need some support in getting into that program, that's something we could potentially do. OCM BOCES has some great programs that are aligned with employer needs that are up and running, and we're really bullish on what they're capable of, and we're trying to help make the connections between people and what they're doing. SUNY EOC, our good friend Tim Penix, has a number of programs that we're part of, and we will be announcing dates for these soon, but supporting them to kind of make sure that their programs are teed up to align with employers' needs, and we have the right wraparound services. And those are programs in both construction and manufacturing as well. So those are all things that are happening today that people could start looking into. You're going to start seeing a lot more robust marketing coming out of our universe, probably by May, around some of this stuff. But in the meantime, those are places that you can kind of poke around and find some good stuff.
Okay. All right. So you have to warn Tim and Dr. Hilton, okay, because we're getting ready to announce that they need to go to the OCC. Okay?
Money Maven said get over there. So
and get involved. Call Centerstate CEO. Ask him Dominic Robinson, ask for someone on his team.
Yep.
Go
Yep.
to OCM BOCES,
Yep.
correct? Okay.
Yep.
As far and go to EOC. Okay,
Yeah.
there with Tim Penix to make sure that you are involved. But right now, don't sit around and wait. Here's my point. Don't
No.
sit around and wait. Okay.
We are going to need thousands and thousands of workers in the next decade, and these are jobs that are accessible to you because what they rely upon is work ethic and intelligence. But unlike a lot of jobs that aren't accessible, they don't have artificial barriers around a bunch of degrees and this and that.
Okay.
And so, but these are family sustaining wages, right? We're talking in many cases jobs that pay 20, 30 or more an hour. And you know, I think that's the beauty of bringing manufacturing back. It's the beauty of boosting our construction workforce, because those jobs for a long time were the backbone of our middle class, and so they're coming back. So get on board. That's kind of the message, right?
So I'm going to bring you back again, and we're going to talk about the technology garden. But at this point in time, I'm sure that we filled up everybody's plate concerning understanding exactly what's going on with on-ramp, what advanced manufacturing means, how this has been a disruptive process as far as changing the mindset and changing the direction of the community, and that we have 3 avenues to get involved in right away while we're waiting for the budget to be passed and also for the Senate to open up. We know the budget's going to get passed. It always gets passed, but the date, okay, that
it's
happened.
It's like me doing my laundry. It gets done eventually.
Okay, all right. And the next time, okay, we'll also ask you how your space trip was, since we got all those celestial stars behind you. Okay,
but not today. Not today.
Not today. We're celebrating, okay? Listen, for everybody, I want to remind you, okay, that to share, subscribe. As far as this program is concerned, be sure and share, subscribe. If you have any questions, give us a call, area code 315-930-4499. Quickly, on April 27th, I will be participating in a special workshop there at CFAC, along with the Minority Business, the Minority...
That is the Community Folk Arts Center. Go ahead.
Community Folk Arts Center, sponsored by the Minority Bar Association, talking about estate planning and generational wealth. Look forward to seeing you on April 27th. At this point in time, George, I will say our plate is full.
And by the way, you can reach Vicki at area code 315-930-4499. And you can email her to info@brackensfsn.com. Now we will let you know that our plate is full. Thank you, Dominic Robinson and Vicki Brackens. And Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. She is America's money maven.